Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, is it time again? Thank you for coming in to the Professor of Perseverance podcast. I am the Professor of Perseverance himself, Dr. James Purdue. Hey, we bring on guests that's going to help you with your struggle, with your fight, with your challenge, with your differences to help you get a better life, have a better life. I'll let you know that at the end of the tunnel, when you see that light there and know it's not a freight train, you're doing the right thing. Hey, remember, sometimes to smell the roses, what do we got to do? We might have to walk through the fertilizer to get to that rose smell, but we're going to be able to handle life, come out on the better end, and our guests are proof that it can happen. Today, my guest, she a single mother, and say I respect all single mothers. They're the workforce of everything. My mom raised me and my other brothers, my siblings, single, did a great job. I know I'm a little biased on that part, but she did a great job. Single mothers, top of the game. All right, but she's a mother of 8, sole financial supporter, and had returned to university to finish her bachelor's degree. Here's what the problem is. She was a compulsive list maker, had these lists to do, and she never felt like she was accomplishing what she needed to do. And that's when she decided, her life changed, when she decided to turn everything over to God's list to do, not hers. And she's going to tell us how all this came to find her purpose in life. Welcome to the show, Margaret Agard.
Hi, James. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, and we're glad that you're here, and appreciate again you sharing your valuable time with us, because we all know time is valuable, and we appreciate that you're here to help someone in the long run.
Thanks. And I really like sharing about how I turn my to-do list over to God, because I know a lot of people who are to-do list addicts. And I even know people, and I was one of them, who, if I did something that wasn't on my to-do list, would actually add it to my to-do list so I could check it off.
There you go.
Yeah. So I was a to-do list. I didn't know how else to get through life.
Well, and we're taught to be successful in life, we need to set goals, right? And which is a to-do list, goals to be set. But we need to prioritize things and learn what's working, what's not working, learn from it, move from it, whatever, adjust in life. But again, and I consider myself a Christian, but you said you finally decided to turn it all over to God, and instead of worrying about this list, and that's when you felt that you've been most successful. So if you want to go ahead and lead us into this.
Okay, so what happened is I knew all about prioritizing. I knew about, a quadrant or one quadrant, whatever someone wanted to call it. But everything that was on my list, I felt like was a type A. It was make sure my son got to the doctor. It was have a paper ready to turn into class. It was have a report ready and an invoice for a client. And I would think, I don't even know. Sometimes I would walk into the class and the professor would have put a sign up, sick, the test has been put off until Friday, just things like that. And I would think, I seem to be working on the wrong thing sometimes. So I thought, who knows the future? Who knows what's coming? And it was God. I thought, well, God knows. God knows what I really need to do today. And at the time, I was lucky to get 4 hours sleep a night. And in the middle of the night, I often woke up just with a sense of, everything's going wrong. There must be something I'm not doing. And as I started turning my to-do list over to God, and the way I did it is I would just take it to him and say, okay, here's what I say I have to get done today. What do you say? And I would have that thought that I know is God, and I would just start to cross things off. Okay, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. And he would often add something like, I want you to call this particular friend, or I want you to make a meal, and I'd be thinking to make a meal and take it to someone. But he gradually changed my life, and he took out of my life the things that didn't matter and didn't have to get done. A lot of us will keep adding projects, and I still am inclined to do that. And as I did that, if I focused only what he told me to do, didn't add things, at the end of the day, I'd be done by 8 at night. I'd be relaxed. I won't be worried because I think, well, I got everything done he said had to be done, right? And over time, I started asking something different. I started asking, well, what do you want me to do today? Now, if you're a Christian, you know the Lord's Prayer, right? And it starts out, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth the way it is in heaven. And I started thinking about, do you think the angels of heaven are running over to God? Oh, I've got so much to do. Can you help me with this? Or do you think the angels in heaven are saying, you have so much to do. How can I help you? And
Oh, that's good. Yes.
And so as I did it, I found 3 things. One is I did manage to get the laundry done, the dishes done, the meals made. You know, he didn't forget that here on earth we have to eat and clean. And I also became a blessing in people's lives. And if I was focusing on what he needed me to do, he then gave me what I needed. I don't know how that worked. I mean, I still was working on what I needed, but I have some stories about that are kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I like the way you turn that around with the angels. That's pretty good. That instead of them running around with this to-do list and getting overwhelmed, it's, what can I do to help you, God, to fulfill your world out. And so that's I like the way you turn that around. So yeah, and I'm a firm believer we are here to help people as much as we can. We can't do everything every time, but there's times that we can do something. And so I believe we should be a servant.
Yes. And this concern about, oh my gosh, but my family, things like that. I can remember one day making a list, which I thought would be good, that God's gonna like this list. It's got a little service in
There you
here.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I took it to him and I was praying and he said, that's a good list. Oh, thank you. And then would you be willing to change it? And I thought, well, yes, because that's
Yeah.
usually how I feel. I'm kind of committed to my list at some point. And
Hmm.
then he said, I want you to just focus on being available for your husband today. And I used to give massages. Make sure you give him a massage today. You know, he wants us to love our families. We're not have to be out. He makes sure our families are cared for too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, this is getting awesome. Now let's go. Let me ask this question now that, how do we know that this voice that you're listening to is not your inner voice trying to talk you into something, that you're saying it's God talking, telling you, instructing you what to do?
So there's three ways I learned it. I'm sure many of your listeners already know how to recognize that voice, but some are saying I don't know. And so when I was in my early 20s, I went to God and said, I don't know how to recognize your voice. I'm not sure when you're talking to me. And I'd like to learn, but I don't even know how you can teach me if I don't know how
Yeah.
to hear it already.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll just share one experience. I was making a dinner just for my family. It was on a Monday. And the pot I was making chili, kept getting bigger and bigger. And this thought kept coming to me, invite the Joneses to dinner. And I thought, no, they just came to dinner Friday night. That'd be stupid. And then the thought came again, I'll invite the Joneses to dinner. It often sounds like me talking to me. And I
Hmm.
thought, no. For one thing, it's Monday night, and we had set aside Monday night to just be for our family and, not get involved in sports or anything like that. And then the thought came the third time. So this is important. The thought is a good thought and it keeps coming back. I don't, usually when I say, yeah, I'm not going to do something, I don't think about it again. But when it's God, it will keep coming back.
Okay.
So we did invite them to dinner, which was interesting because we were having a little scripture study with our kids. And God said, invite them to stay for that little scripture study. And what we were teaching the kids was about tithing. So the people, they came to dinner as we shared the tithing lesson, and I don't think they would have told us this otherwise. They said they had been trying to pay tithing and they had gotten behind because they wanted the blessings of tithing. And
Mm-hmm.
and then they got this check-in and they thought, well, we can either catch up our tithing or we can buy food or we can kind of do half and half. And they really prayed about it and went to church on Sunday and paid their tithing. And by the time they left church on Sunday, they had been invited to dinner every night of the week except Monday.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, so I was like, oh, so that was God. That had to be God. And
Yeah.
the other thing I did is I recognize He talks to me in words I understand, but I probably don't use them. We were going up to Alaska, and I had prayed, what do we have to do to get ready? And the answer just popped into my head immediately. So often it's immediate. And it was take a brisk walk every day. Well, now I know the word brisk. I will have never in my life in conversation used the word brisk. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not
Uh-huh.
there. And so, and you get the difference. He's very clear. Like a brisk walk, I don't have to take up jogging. A brisk walk, I'm also not strolling along, smelling the roses, get your heartbeat up. And so that's another way I recognize it is he's clear and concise and he speaks in my language. I have a friend who says when God talks to her, he calls her girlfriend. Listen, girlfriend, he says.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And the third thing I do is I journal. It does help me to journal. I'm reading my scriptures, things will jump out at me, and I'm journaling about what I'm thinking as I'm thinking about that problem or issue. And at some point, I'll realize this is not me. What I'm writing is thoughts that he's putting in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three things that I would say, learning to recognize that spirit.
I like journaling. I don't journal as much as I need to or should. But I really like because at the end you get to go back and refresh your memory on what happened last year that you have
Yeah.
forgotten about, and then you realize how much, especially when you're down in the dumps, you're depressed, and then you go back and read these journals to see how much you have really blessed someone else, or like you said, blessing has come to you.
Yes. Do you want to hear that story? Do we have time?
Yes, go ahead.
So,
Yes.
okay. So the thought is, well, how are you going to find time, for your own stuff? Like, it seems like you're putting it aside, which it often did. It was like, do you see that pile in the living room? Kind of was my reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And well, now I've got the story I wanted to share, but the story that keeps coming to me is we were selling our house in California. We were getting ready to go off and serve missions. And as we were getting ready to sell it, we had a lot of work that had to be done, including crawling underneath and clearing some stuff out and taking care of some little termite issue. And I could see, it was horrible. It was before cell phones. And even if we'd had one, it wouldn't have worked under the house. The phone would ring upstairs and we were selling stuff over the internet. And I would have to crawl under the house and leap up and run across the deck and into the house and grab the phone before the last ring. And we had 3 days left, or 4 days. And then we were going to have a walkthrough for the house. And we knew it was going to take 3 days to finish whatever we were working on, which I don't remember. But as I picked up the phone, I heard this person say to me, can you give my dad a ride to the doctor tomorrow? And my thought was, no.
That's
But
right.
I'm trying to say no, and what comes out of my mouth is yes. And we lived in the country. So it was going to take me like an hour to go get her and then drive the other direction to the doctor's, which was an hour. This was going to be an all-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we only had a few days left in this big 3-day project. So we go to the doctor's office. Again, it's before the internet. And while he's back with the doctor, I'm flipping through magazines. And I see like one of those little tip columns. And as I read it, I realize it's about the thing we were trying to do that we couldn't figure out an easier way to do. And it was how to do it in an easier way. And so went home that day. I had given up a day of my life, but that tip saved us 2 days. And so see, God will put you where you need to be.
I'm a firm believer. Yes, God, especially when you're down and out a little bit and you're feeling the poor, pitiful me thing,
Mm.
God will put you in a position where you're to wake up and realize how much you have helped someone or how much you really are doing. Yeah, he'll definitely put you in the right spot when you get the old poor, pitiful me thing going.
Oh, I
And
just had
so,
that this morning. I mean, it's not like it goes away, James.
oh yes, oh yeah. I mean, my story I've told my listeners is my first book that I wrote is just a memoir on me and how I got in a wheelchair and everything. And two separate times, they were about a year apart, two separate times. I was motivational speaking, inspirational speaking, but my speaking business hadn't gone like I wanted it,
Yeah.
hadn't been as productive as I wanted it. And two times, about a year apart, I said, I'm done with this speaking, forget this, it's time to move on in life and everything. Both times, again, a year apart, I go to the store to walk my service dog and everything. And both times, someone come up on the day that I said I'm done with this speaking, come up to me and say, "Hey, I read your book and let you know that it's going to help me." And I'm going, "Yeah, right." You know, I'm thinking to myself, "Okay." And then I ask them the question, "Where'd you get my book from? Did someone refer it to you? Did someone throw it in the trash can and you picked it up?" You know, I asked them that, and now here's where God kicked my butt both times. Again, this is a year apart.
Yeah.
These two conferences with two different individuals. Where did you? How did you get my book? Both of them told me your book is in the county jail library, and I was incarcerated, and I found your book in there.
Oh,
And so
see,
after
yeah.
that, I was going, you know, you can't quit after that. When
No.
those two, again, a year apart, they don't know each other, but yet they both found my book while they
Yeah.
were incarcerated. And
Yes.
so that's when you go, man, you're helping people out there that you don't even know. And so, how can you quit now? With God giving those examples.
Right. I had a radio show for a while, kind of like your podcast. And that's one thing I noticed is he will lead me in a direction and I think I know where he wants me to go. Oh, I'm going to be the next Glenn Beck. You know what I mean? And but it was
Yeah.
just a year and a half. It was local. I had some good guests because it was a 50 kilowatt station, which at the time people who, had best-selling books were looking for that, at least that size.
Hmm.
But I did it for a year and a half and then it was over. Like, no, that's all I want you to do. And I think, like you, James, we're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to end up here if I'm doing this because God told me to do it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, he definitely knows where you need to be and what's going on with you. And again, it goes back to you're helping someone that you have no clue about. I know it. You don't have to know it.
Right. Right. That's interesting. But it does help. So he does give us that reassurance, I think, when we
Yeah,
need it.
and I'm one of them. I like reinsurance. That way I know I don't feel like I'm wasting my time. And so when you say reinsurance, I tell people it was a kick in my butt that God
Okay.
saying, no, 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 you're not done yet, buddy. You know, keep it going. And so, here's a front cover of your first book here and your memoir and best-selling author here. We got Margaret Agard, and it's In His Footsteps. And I gave my to-do list to God and got more done, more sleep, less stress. So, and all your books are, well, I say, oh, you got two of them and working on the third one, but their first part is called In His Footsteps, and then the subtitle tells you a little bit more. Um, and we're talking right now at the moment about the to do list. Gave it over to God, and you're getting more done and less stressful and more sleep and helping more people now from there. So,
So when I think of those three books, and the third one is about marriage, I think of them as books about faith, hope, and charity or love. And the faith came from being willing to just give my life to God by giving him my to-do list because my daily to-do list is my life.
mm-hmm,
And the hope part came from when we served missions. We spent a few years serving missions, and to me, we hoped we could make the world a better place by bringing hope to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then that third book about our marriage, my plan as a single mom was not to get married again. And God had a different plan. And I, at the time, was an executive, and that degree worked. I ended up as an executive in the high tech industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing well. And I had a plan. I had my 20-year plan. It did not include remarriage, and so I ended up getting married again. Just stopped being an executive in the industry, went off to serve missions. And you would think God had given me a promise. He said, "You're going to meet the person you're going to marry next fall." And he gave me time to get used to the idea because I was like, "No, thank you."
That's
And
right.
then, yes. And so, what was interesting is you would think, this would be a match made in heaven, but actually, my husband was very wounded emotionally, and I had some emotional wounds, and so we had some rough spots. And at one point, I said to God, if I'm supposed to stay in this marriage, I need some scripture or something to hold on to. And what I got was a promise. All will be made whole. And I thought of us and our children and those around us as a result of this marriage. And we're still working on that, but I do see that happening. So it's all about listening to God, all three of them.
There you go. I've never been married. Not to say I'm opposed to marriage, but I've never found the one. And so, yeah, but I'm just looking again. Uh, Love becoming one with Parker again. First part of the title, In His Footsteps. And so again about love and marriage. And this is the third book. And when do you expect or are you hoping to have that out?
Well, by next fall. But again, this is God's timing. I thought it was going to be last fall, and our life fell apart with a fire in our house. I mean, just things, and
Oh
people
yeah,
dying, and executrix. And God had told me at the beginning of the year, don't plan on doing much this year. so,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, I'm glad that year's over.
We're a bunch of us are glad last year is over. So I tell you, just with that COVID, just all that mess going on and still going on. Now, your
Mm-hmm.
second book here, In His Footsteps, again, emails from the mission field, things to learn while serving. Yeah, I'm a big believer in, again, helping people. There's a lot of ways you can help someone that doesn't cost you any money.
That's correct.
Your special gift that you could use that someone could use to help with, use that blessing. And again, I'm all about, if you bless someone, like you said, it'll come back to you. It may not come back tomorrow, may not be next week, but it's going to come back in years to come, whenever. So again, in God's timing, it'll come back to you.
So I actually learned something about specific prayer during that mission.
Hmm.
That he wants us to be as specific and clear as he is. He wants us to become like him, right? And so at one point, we were trying to teach a family who didn't speak English, only spoke Spanish. And we were trying to bring them a spiritual lesson. And we had made arrangements for some people who did speak Spanish to stop by when we were there. And they didn't show up. So we could say what we needed to say. We had no clue what they were saying back to us because they
Yeah,
spoke.
yeah.
And so the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm praying, please help these people to go by and know we need help. Please help them to go by and know we need help. And no one ever showed up. So the next day we run into them and they said to us, hey, we saw your car at so-and-so's house last night. And we thought, wow, they're brave because they really need help. You know what I left out? And please have them come in and give us that help. So I was like, he gave me exactly what I prayed for. Now that sounds kind of funny, but I think it went well. The little spiritual lesson went well. It all worked out. And he wasn't being mean to me. He was saying to me, I want you to learn to be specific and clear. So it was a good lesson for me.
It's a good lesson for all of us. And again, more clear we are, the more we are to know what needs to, it's coming to us or needs to be done. And hey, Eagle VP, thank you for coming in. And Eagle VP saying, hello, Margaret. Whoops,
Hi.
right there. There we go. Saying hello to you. Eagle VP, thank you for coming in. So,
Hi, Ego VP.
all right. And so, Yeah, this is I'm enjoying our conversation here. It's um I'm like you. I don't know, the inner voice that I'm listening is myself, wandering and talking. If God is putting something into me, and so I'm still having to learn that as well. Um, when He's really talking to me, that I really listen and know it's Him. And yeah, I'm still having to learn that as well.
Well, sometimes I
So
have to ask that, is this you? Is this you? And once, oh my gosh, and this is in the mission book too. I think he was, how much time do we have, James?
oh, we got a few more minutes. We got
Okay.
about 7, 8, 10 minutes.
Okay. So I kept getting the thought that I knew was God that I should call this woman. Now she was disabled, and at this point we were in Alaska, and her husband worked on the slopes, which meant the only way you can get from the slopes back down to where most people live, Wasilla and Anchorage, is by flying. And so flights had been canceled, and at the point this story ends, but at the time we had gone by her house. She'd only let us come in one time, and she had next to her on her couch a phone, and I could hear the phone ringing, and it would just go to voicemail. At that point it was the machines where you kept your messages, and I could hear her listening to the messages, and she never picked up. Well, so then I kept getting the thought that I should call her. And I thought, if she wanted us to come and if she wanted us to talk to her, she would pick up that phone. And it's humiliating to me to keep calling her, knowing she's just sitting there listening to me and not picking up. And so I
Hmm.
left the same message every time. Oh, we're thinking of you. If you ever need any help, call us. Here's our number. I must have done that 6 times, 6 weeks in a row. And at the end, I was like, why? Because I don't want to do this anymore. I think I'm bugging her. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, she called me one day, and she said she had 3 disabled children that she cared for, and she had gone in for an outpatient surgery, had thought she'd be home in the afternoon, but something had gone wrong, and she was going to have to stay in the hospital overnight. Her children were on their way home from school, and she needed someone to be there when they got home and to take care of them. And so she called me. And as I thought about it, God was saying to me, see, if you'd called her once 6 weeks ago and left that message, she wouldn't think to call you. But the fact that you left that message 6 times, that it was on her answering machine, and that you left your phone number every time, she knew how to call and who to call. And again, that was a blessing. And it was not easy for me to do that. I've worked in sales, and I'm not going to keep calling people if they don't call me back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you feel like you're pestering. You feel like yeah. I understand that with the cold calls when I got into first speaking, trying to, and then you call them to to find out what's going more, and then you're going. I mean, this is the 8th time I'm calling. I know I got to be bothering them, and yeah. So I understand what you're saying there. But yeah, it's if God's right on definitely on that one with her, she probably fell with disabled children. I know how to take care of them. I know what needs to be best for them. I know it because I've been, yeah, I can. Then if you called one time, she'd been going, does she really want to, or is she just saying that just
Because
to
I
get
have
her?
to.
Yeah, yeah, I have to, or out of pity, or out of just to clear her conscience. Yeah. But repeating, maybe she really does want to do something to help. And yeah, so I can see that with God explaining that to you. Yeah, that's good. So
Yeah, but he
man,
also asked us to do things that were like, oh, I don't know.
and it had to be not to say because I'm disabled and everything, but it had to be a blessing knowing that you're helping someone less fortunate into the physical area, mental area, and knowing that they'll be cared for when she really needed it. That
When
had
she,
to be a blessing in itself for you.
it, it was, I guess it was. We often,
And
yeah, we
And
spend,
I'm not saying just because they're disabled. I mean, because you're going to go take care of somebody else's child when someone happens to be in a hospital or late for work or something. I mean, that's a blessing as well. But the
it,
ones here that really need some expertise in cooking, getting supper, or helping them get, to know that they're cared for. That's got to be a huge blessing, I would think.
And to know I've brought them some kind of peace.
Yeah, because they were going to be worried about Mama, where she at it, not home, and why are you here, and some peace, and not have them at ease as well. So, wow, Margaret, you are a blessing. I'm telling you right now that you have lightened me this morning, and so making me ready to go out and go do something to help someone out there. I'm a big believer. When I get my old, poor, pitiful me, then I want to take my service dog to the store, because you won't believe how many people just want to hang all over and hug this dog. And then there's several people that have cried to me and go, I had to put my dog down 6 months ago or
Oh,
9 months ago. And then they're loving all over him and making them feel more at ease. And so when I get to that poor, pitiful me, I just take that dog and we go and do miracles.
oh, I love that.
Miracles through
I love it.
God, not me.
Yes.
Miracles through God and a dog is
I
what I
want
tell
to start
people.
saying that. It seems odd to say it. Oh, I was doing that because of God. God loves you. And the other day I was getting it was not the other day, it was last summer because it was hot. And I was going to get some water. I saw a watermelon truck by the side of the road, and I thought, I'm going to get a watermelon on my way home from the store. And I went by and I went through Burger King, and they were selling those dollar ice cream cones. I thought, I'm getting me one of those. And I got it, and they didn't have any cones, but they just put it in a cup. They said they'd do that. And then as I went
Mhm.
up to pay, after I paid for it, and there was a big long line behind me of other cars, as I pulled away from um, the cashier, I had that thought that I know is God. And he said, I want you to give this ice cream to the person selling watermelons. And I thought, if you told me that 2 minutes ago, I'd go order two ice creams.
Exactly.
Said, well, you don't really need an ice cream. And I thought, well, what are you, like my diet coach now? But anyway,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, I think I cannot eat this ice cream for the mile I have to drive to get to that watermelon truck. I think I can have enough
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
self-control.
yeah.
As I pull up, here comes this elderly, sweaty, hot old man. And I thought, I brought you an ice cream. And he's like, well, thank you. And what I didn't say, what I wish I'd said was, and you know why? Because God said, my son here needs an ice cream. I want you to bring it to him.
That's right. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't think, and God is not in it for taking credit.
No.
Um, Even though we should be giving it, but there's plenty of times, that I don't say, hey, here's a miracle from God. Here's my dog to play with. No, I do like you. Hey, yes, you can play with my dog. It's cool. Instead of saying, yep, God sent us here today for y'all to meet Ricardo and play with him. Yep. I'm like you. I need to give credit more, but hey, he's not in the credit business.
No,
But
he isn't. But I think I want
I'm like you. I really do need to give more credit.
And I want them to know how much he loves them. That's really the message. God loves you and wants to bless you. And the way he does it is through other people. And so here's this ice cream because God loves
Amen, sister. There we go. All right, yeah, Margaret, appreciate you being here again. Margaret Agard. Hey, give us your social media website, how people can find you, and your book. I know it's on your website. Your two books and third to come.
Right. So on the website, inhisfootsteps.com, I also have a blog where I have other stories. I have some of the radio shows, but the books, how to get them are all there, the different sites you can get them from. And I have a monthly newsletter. I like to assure people you're only going to get it once a month because I'm too lazy to do more. And then my social media, I am on Facebook. I have an In His Footsteps page on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. It's also In His Footsteps, and I'm on Instagram. And again, that's in his footsteps. So, and that came from God too, because I was calling myself apprentice to the master, thinking of Christ. But he's like, no,
That's right.
yeah, change it to in his footsteps. So,
Yep. A lot of people go into apprenticeship learning from a mentor, coach, whatever. So yes, the same thing. We should be. Yeah, I never thought of that. You brought that into my thinking capacity now that we are an apprentice, to God,
yeah.
apprentice of God. Yeah. So that's good. So in his footsteps, you can Google that. You'll find Margaret that way, and I'll put the links in the notes here to make it easier for people to click on as well. So All right,
Thank
Margaret, last thing here. We know that people are hurting and struggling. And if you can leave us with a positive message that would help them get through today, that would be a blessing in itself.
I know for sure that God loves us and does want to bless us. And often it felt like I was getting in the way. And that's why I recommend looking at your day, whether or not you have it written down, and then asking God, what do you want me to do today? To God. And just try it for a week and you'll have a totally different life. I know that.
There we go. Thank you. Yes. Ask and you shall receive. So from there. All right, Margaret. Hey, thank you for being on and appreciate it. And I hope, they say this stuff's going to be on the internet for years to come and it's never leaving now. So just thinking 100 years from now, somebody's going to find this and you're going to spotlight them and help them get through today and from there. All right,
Thank
everybody else, thank you for coming in. Hey, Eagle VP, thank you for showing up and supporting us and listening and to Margaret and everything. And I hope you have a blessed day as well. Everyone else, hey, be sure to share this. People need hope out there. People need some type of inspiration, motivation. Be sure to share this out. Let someone know that life is worth living and everything's going to be okay. Get through your struggle. I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.